Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Mom and I are both grateful that you can join us today. And we're excited today. We have Samala Austin on with us. She is legally blind and she's created a life that she loves, a life that once felt impossible. She didn't always live this way. She grew up in survival mode, trauma, people pleasing, toxic relationships, betrayal, fear, and eventually a diagnosis that could have broken her. Instead of collapsing under it, she made a decision. She wasn't going to settle for old patterns, fear, or limitations. She was determined to create things differently. Today, she's a hypnotherapist and conscious creation coach, trained by some of the world's leading teachers and deeply committed to helping people rewrite the patterns that hold them back. Understanding how her subconscious was shaping her life changed everything. It opened doors to the life that she lives now, traveling the world, working with clients globally, and consciously creating a future she once didn't believe she could have. Now she helps others do the same, break free from subconscious patterns, reclaim their power, and create a reality aligned with who they truly are. She supports people through coaching, consulting, workshops, and hypnotherapy programs. So, welcome. We're so excited to have you on the podcast with us today.
Thank you. I'm really honored that you guys reached out and found me across the ocean and invited me on. Awesome.
So, how does your conscious coaching? I'm interested. What is conscious coaching?
So yeah, it's not ordinary life coaching. I like to think of it more of mentoring. I'm sort of teaching my clients a different way of thinking and being and consciously creating their life. Because we kind of just go through life, don't we? Reacting all the time to anything that's coming out. We feel an emotion and we react to the emotion because emotions drive behavior. So we live reactively, and that can kind of create what I call like an oscillating structure where you go for things, you might have it for a while, and then you sort of want to quit or give up, or you fall back, or it gets too hard, or you decide you no longer want that thing anymore. And you might have it for a while and lose it, and that's really traumatic. So there's this kind of, you must have experienced that in life, right? Where you are swinging back and forth. But then for some other things, sometimes you go for it and you get it, and it's like, well, why did I get it and then I didn't get it? Why sometimes does it work out and why sometimes does it not work out? And we can tend to think, oh, well, it was meant to be, it was the universe. And maybe sometimes it is, if you really are doing your best and it is, things don't work out, there's something better for you. But conscious creating, which is I've named it that. I've got really great mentors that I've learned from, they're in their 70s and 80s and they're just brilliant. Like I've learned probably the most from them out of any of my teachers. And it's about being conscious of what's coming up for you and then re-choosing, like what you would love. What do you love? Like what is going on for you now, currently? Like pausing and going, okay, it's when you get that tension and you want to like like beep at the person in front of you, or you feel frustrated with the project you're working on or with your partner and you want to quit or leave, or it's pausing and really going, okay, what is coming up for me? What's going on in my current reality? Like what am I feeling right now? What's going on? What are my circumstances? What are my conditions? And I have processes I teach people that they can go through that very quickly and figure out where they are, what's going on for them, what they're feeling. I don't want to get all technical in a short conversation, but and then to really, because once you name something, it really does start to release it when you really are aware of what's going on for you. Because a lot of the time we're not, right? Like I said, we're just reacting. And then once they're able to kind of be with it, and then they can choose what they would love and then get back on track, because we have two tracks in life. We can go that way or we can go that way. And what we think we're focused on, we're not focused on, and we can lose focus in a split second, right? So it's really about keeping people focused on what they would love, and at the same time, simultaneously being able to be okay and hold what would be the shadow, what people call the shadow or the darkness. And there's lots of shadow work out there. And it's never about that can't exist, because a lot of us think, well, there's something wrong with me. And this ties in with hypnotherapy as well, the work I do. There's something wrong with me and it can't exist. in order for me to be happy or to have what I love, if I'm going to have a beautiful partner that loves me, well, then I need to fix this I'm not enough thing. I need to become a good person. I secretly, a lot of us, or unconsciously, a lot of us have a belief that we're bad somehow, right? That comes up in so many sessions. If you've worked with people, you probably see yourself, right? That they're bad, they're not enough, there's something wrong with them, that they're inherently bad. And a lot of people pleasers have that. They actually quietly, secretly, well, not secretly, it's unconsciously have a belief or a concept that they're bad. And so, and they've got some fear of the world. There's a fear around, the future in the world. So they have to be really nice to people all the time. Well, they don't have to, they do it because if they're nice to people and if they're loaning money and being, saying yes and helping, then they can feel safe, right? Because in a way, it's a control structure. They're controlling people
Mhm.
because if they're being nice and everyone's happy around them, then they feel safe. But they're not just being themselves. They're not just saying what they would love and letting everyone just have their own emotions. And people can be upset if they're upset or not upset, right? They have to control people by being nice. I have that one, so I know it well. And then it usually backfires, because they can help, and then it's like they don't get the response they want, or it backfires, and they're like, "But I'm so nice," and they really can't deal with if anyone was to say to them or criticize them, right? That would really like because it's poking that wound of like, "Oh, I'm bad." So that stuff that we don't want, right? I'm bad. I'm not enough. I'm overweight, or I'm not lovable, or no one, I don't like my body, or all that stuff. We can spend a lot of our focus trying to fix it. So we see, lots of therapists, not that that's a bad thing, but it's where you're coming from, it's always where are you coming from in relation to creating what you want? Are you trying to get away from what you don't want to have that thing? Or are you simply going for what you would love in and of itself because you love it? And it's not anything to do with you. It's got nothing to do with your identity, who you are. You just would love to bring it into being and as a creation. And say if you were a painter and you were painting a beautiful picture, the person who looks at that picture has their own experience of that picture, right? And it's out of your hands now, like that someone else is creating their own world with that painting. And you didn't try to manipulate anyone with that painting. You might, if you made it some political thing, you might have tried to manipulate people, but it would have had a different effect, right? So that person you watch a movie, right? And someone has their own experience of that movie. And that's when things work out, when you don't bring your identity into it. I'm not enough, or I'm a therapist, like you really bring your identity and make it about you, like we make things about us. So, um, but in order to go for what we love, we think we have to get rid of something first. So we spend a lot of time unconsciously focusing not on what we would love to create, but on what we're trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
So our actions are that. Our actions turn into not going for what we love, but rather helping everyone around us. But it's dysfunctional helping, like we're burning out, we're tired, it's not because we'd love to, or um, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some examples, like but basically just doing things unconsciously, but it's not really what we would love. It's kind of
Mhm.
like affirmations, affirmations are great, but also it's where you're coming from again. You could say, oh, I'm so rich. I'm so rich. The money is raining on me and I'm rich. I'm rich. And the subconscious, not stupid. It's like, wow, you're freaking out about money. What's wrong? You're scared. You don't think you've got any money. And so the focus really is I'm poor, I'm poor, I'm poor. It's not really on I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. The focus needs to be one above that, that I am powerful, that I have the capabilities to make money, that I'm strong, that I can do it, right? That I can figure
Yeah.
it out. And then create structures around that. So I get into structure stuff. That's another complicated thing. Um, it is really not, but it's a complicated to explain it quickly. So a big part of my work is really bringing people back, whether it's with coaching or hypnotherapy, bringing people back into wholeness, right? So with hypnotherapy, it's showing them what is there. Um, and once we have awareness, that's really powerful. That's like death to the ego, the identity. And then in different ways, I also do really amazing magical recordings that they get to listen to, and then I take them through a journey. But then it's showing them what they would love and planting the seeds and focusing them on what they love.
Mhm.
With the conscious creation coaching, I teach people how to get in contact with their higher self, their superconscious, really easily. It takes 10 minutes. And then we do a session where we go into their land, where we call the land of plenty, and we go in there and they just see everything they would love. So they're doing it outside their thoughts and feelings, and they're allowing themselves to have anything that they would like in life. And also, we know they know what they'd like as well. They put things in there, but you just see it as like a movie of all the things you'd love. And then I go in there as well and I intuitively write down what I get. And then from there, they create like 9 choices of things that they'd like to create, relationship, travel, business. And we word it in such a specific way that they're not, there's no what we call negative vision in there. They're not trying to get away from anything. It's purely that they would love this thing in and of itself. It's nothing to do with them. It's going to have its own creation. People will experience it, even relationship, even family, even travel, it becomes this beautiful creation. So it's worded in such a, really powerful way that there's no like fear words in there. And your subconscious knows exactly what you're asking for. Like you wouldn't say, I want a dog and you get like a wolf, you get exactly, there's no confusion. And then I teach them how to every day connect with that with one choice and go into it, and then to really come back into where they are and in relation to that. So they experience being in there, they see it, they see the vision, and then they come back into their current reality and they're honest with themselves, like, this is what's coming up. This is what I'm trying to get away from. So they're trained to really go intuitively into what's there. And in sessions, we do that together, and I go into them and read them and see what's there. And then they get to see, oh, there's this dark stuff, or there's these negative things, or there's this stuff that I don't want and I don't like. But they get to a point where it's not scary anymore, which is really powerful. It's not like, oh, I can't deal with that. I don't want to know that bad thing about me. Or I don't want to see this negative thing about me. Or I don't want to know that I'm really judgy and negative and I can be really awful sometimes. They can just be with it. And then, maybe they need to feel the emotion, maybe they need to cry, whatever, and then they move through it. And then they decide, do they want that choice? Is that what they would love? And then they connect back to their heart, really is what they're doing. They're connecting to their heart brain, which we know, scientifically we have a heart brain. And they're going, yeah, that's what I would still love. I really want that. And so then we figure out the next step for them to do to get them closer to that, right? So we can do that intuitively. And I also have another way, structural tension chat, where we actually get practical steps. And so I help them consciously create their life, right? And as we know, not always the destination or the journey, it's who you become on the journey, right? So as
Yeah.
you go for something, the equal amount of resistance can come up to stop you going for it, right? That the ego, it's like, no, you're not having that. That's not safe. We don't know. You, as some really successful author, got no idea what that's like. So we don't want to do that. We're happy here. This is good. We like this. So as you start going to create things, stuff is going to come up, right? Fear and all your shit's going to come up. So that's why coaching is good, because the stuff will come up and you have 2 weeks to kind of have stuff come up, and then you come and have a session with me and we deal with it. We see what's there and then we get you back on. I had a coach. I mean, I still have a coach for 3 years now, and it's really where my life, I already had done lots of hypnotherapy and it was amazing. But I wanted to go another level. Like I wanted to travel the world and let my house go here in Australia with my son and do all these things that are quite scary. And I had a coach at the beginning of that journey. And so it's 3 years now, and I've traveled the world and done amazing things. And in the first year, every 2 weeks I'd see my coach, I'd be almost in tears, and stuff was coming up, and I don't want to do it now, and I quit. So much came up. But I refocused on what I wanted, because again, my focus had gone. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm doing what I want, but why are all these things happening, all this drama is happening? And then I was unconsciously doing I can't see it myself, right? That's why we need a mirror. Like I don't even know when it's going on with myself. So then, she would help me through it and help me see all my beliefs and concepts and things that were coming up. And then I would go, yeah, I still want that. And I did it. I stayed focused and I completed, all the things that I wanted to create. And magic happens as well. What you find when you live like this, that then just things happen. You can't even, like, magical thing, have you meet someone and then they say, come here and do this magical thing. And then you go over there and it's like, wow, I was thinking this and it's even better than I expected. So it's really like we call ourselves magicians because we're kind of living from magic, and just holding that tension. And when you hold tension for what you want, a lot of the time we let go of the tension because we don't like tension, right? We kind of freak out at it. Um, but if you hold the tension and you really do the work, you will get what you want, right? You'll end up there.
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
done lots of talking.
No, I think it's great. I love, well, one, I love what you said about the affirmations because I agree. I think affirmations are great, but I think if we are not there with what we're saying, exactly what you said is like we're saying this, but there's a part of us that's not really saying it
Believing it.
because we're not on that same energy vibe, right, of what we're putting out there. So
Yeah.
it's like rephrasing it to be able to say. But so do you find with coaching that as people are kind of shifting and moving through some of their feelings and their darkness as they're creating this life they want, does that shift and change as they go along their journey with it?
Yeah, I mean, if I think about myself and my clients, it's a roller coaster as you go up in life, and you also forget where you've come from, You can forget like, well, actually 3 years ago, I was a completely different person. I forget that. Like as I sit here now, there's things that I want, and I think like, oh, that's scary, and how am I going to do that? And that I don't know if I can, and like, it's like scary for me. But where I am now in life, traveling the world, working with people online, coaching people, 5 years ago, I would have gone, there's no way in hell that I can do that. That's terrifying. But here now in my current reality, am I perfect? No. Do I have shit come up? Yes. Stuff comes up. Every time we go to another level in life, more stuff comes up. Another test will come up to really go, right, this is what you got to deal with now, right? I believe in spiritual correction too, so I guess some people call it like karma, but when you come into life and you do QHTT, right? So when we chose to come into this life, we also chose um, things that we want to work on, things that we want to correct in our life. So so things will come to test us, to expand ourselves, to let more light in, to go through that correction. And if we're in reactive mode, we'll miss the test and we won't expand. So people doing the work with me, I also bring in some spiritual stuff as well, spiritual wisdom from ancient sages. Um, but yes, people expand and grow and get to know themselves more, and they get to a point where it's a bit wobbly in the first year because a lot of stuff comes up. It can be a bit like like doing great and then like wow, like big bombs going off. But then after like, a year of coaching, a year and a half, they really like they're still creating things. Like in my first year of coaching, I was creating amazing, like huge shifts, but I was also having emotional clearing, and things were coming up, and there was family stuff going on, and I was like, oh my God. But ordinarily, I would have quit. I wouldn't have kept going for what I wanted, right? So the emotional
Right.
stuff was going on, but I wouldn't have done everything I've done this year, in the last 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, I am expanded because now I'm doing things I never thought I would do, right? I'm traveling the world for 7 months at a time, and working with people like, all terrified me, the thought of it before. But if I was having a conversation with my friend, I would still be probably complaining about some things, and so life's not perfect, and why does this happen? I'm still human, like getting my stuff. But that's why I have a coach, so I get on with my coach and go, there's all this stuff going on, because there's always going to be stuff going on, right? There's
Mhm.
always going to be conditions. Kids always going to be conditions. There's always going to be circumstances. There's always going to be a broken down car, or this thing that's happened, or some family member, needs you, but you're about to go here. So it's how to be powerful and show yourself that you have the power and the choice, even with the conditions and circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't even with everything going on, that there is another way, and that sometimes we don't see that other way. We just think, oh, I've only got this way and everything's over now, it's all done. But when you become like the point of a ship, the point of the ship, and you go for what you want, and everything else sort of magically, when you keep going for what you want, all this stuff starts to sort itself out. And it does take will, right? Because it's so easy to get caught up in our emotions, right? Emotions drive behavior and we get really kind of lost in them, how we're feeling all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So, and it takes our focus. And so it's focusing on what you love, keeping creating, even with when the conditions and the circumstances are not amazing, you know, because we have times in life where it's like, wow, everything's great and it's easy and that's wonderful. And then other times where it's quite difficult. You went through some difficult stuff, but you still created it. And you start to up level because now you're showing your subconscious she didn't die, she still did it. She's powerful. And you have expanded, right? You've passed the tests. You didn't react. You didn't go and scream at everyone and quit and, you know, whatever. You dealt with what was coming up. You still went for what you loved. That drama sorted itself out magically somehow, or you dealt with it a lot calmer. But you're still going to feel things, right? It doesn't turn you into a robot, as you know, with any therapy. It doesn't turn you into a robot. It's just how to handle it. Like you don't react, right? And you pause. You see the lesson. You see the meaning. You see the, you know, pain is cleansing. It always has a message. So it just helps. Doesn't it is like it doesn't stop all the crazy shit happening in life, but it helps you kind of like not be in the pendulum swing because the pendulum will swing. When you have a high, there will be a low, right? That follows. But you want to get to a point where you're not in the pendulum swing and the crazy, like, you're in the top, kind of watching it, going, okay, this is my thoughts and feelings, my beliefs, my concepts. This is what I'm thinking of the world, myself, and other people. And what do I really want to do in this situation? What would I really love to do? Do I really want to go and do this thing or give all my money away or help these people? Or is that really true for me? Or would I love to do this thing, right? So you're choosing more from conscious choice rather than unconscious reaction, right?
True.
And when you do that, you do start to create what you love. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we love that because we've had that conversation before. It's like looking at it from a different viewpoint, right? Like you're not you're observing it as opposed to being in that situation to help create that where you want to be, right? And not falling in because I have to say that's a thing for me for sure is like things are going great, then you hit that one obstacle, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. You hit that obstacle and it's like, oh, okay, everything's gone to shit, right? Now I got to build my momentum back up, but it's like looking at, oh, that obstacle happened. Oh, what was the lesson in that? What was, not getting drugged down by that?
Yeah, staying there.
Yeah, definitely. And things will come, you know, on this in a spiritual way, things will come to test you so that you know that you have something there, right? Otherwise, if everything's beautiful and rainbows all the time, you're just going to cruise through life. You're never going to know that you have some deep down hidden stuff going on, right? It'll just be gone. Like you won't ever get to work on it, which is a shame because that's where the gold is, right? Actually, we're quite scared of what's down there, the shadow, as people call it. And we only want to scratch the surface, but we don't want to go any further because we're scared of like, what will I really find? And
Right.
so with this work, it really is being okay with that. Actually, that's where the gold is. I say to some of my clients, I kind of just made this up. I don't know if it makes sense, but imagine you have gold buried in the back garden and you don't know it's there, big chunks of gold, right? You don't know it's there. And you know, you have to go to you find it by digging it up and making a big mess, don't you? You have to like dig a big hole and then pull it out. And it's like heavy and you know, you're there sweating all day long and then you dig in this hole and you find the gold. And I feel like that's what it's like. You know, we go through all this kind of stuff, but the gold is deep down there. It's not really, you know, metaphorically, it's deep down there. And stuff happens, you know, someone pulls across, you know, cuts us off in traffic and that's the gold, you know, there's gold there. You want to beep at that guy, you want to tell him he's an asshole, whatever. But
Yeah.
if you pause and you go, oh, I'm feeling something here. Tension is the greatest tool for self-awareness. You know, when you feel that, like, oh, I really want to say something or write that email or send that text message. When you just pause and you go, yeah, I'm feeling something, and you can be with that, and you might get the message, right?
Hmm.
And let it, and maybe you need to feel some pain, or it's, you know, it's cleansing. There's a message there for you, and if you can be with it and not react, there's gold, and the magic starts happening in your life because you actually start to expand yourself. That more magic will come. You'll have another moment where it's like, oh, and sometimes because you're leveling up, the moments can get more intense. It can seem like that, right? Wow, I'm doing all this work and I'm so aware now. And but then it's like, oh, this is it. This is my limit. Now you want to react, right? I
Yeah,
cannot react with all the little stuff.
absolutely. I could say that has happened to me in the past while. It's like I'm shifting some things, and I was saying to my granddaughter, we were driving the other day, I said, I'm trying to shift like overreacting, like because my thing is like you make me mad, then I overreact. And then I have to come back and apologize. So I'm trying to shift that for myself because noticed that. So I'm doing pretty good, but I've noticed there's been a couple of things at my work that something will happen, and then I'm just like, I feel all this anger and just like, oh, I'm so tense, and I'm just like, oh, okay, clearly I'm not done yet. There's more to
Yeah,
dig
and
into.
will we ever be done? I think who knows? Maybe we'll be meditating on a mountain, and we'll just be blissed out. That would be nice, wouldn't it?
Oh, would it ever? What would be something that you would suggest to people that they could kind of put in their spiritual toolkit to kind of start themselves off? Like finding a coach is a good thing, but is there some things that they can do for themselves outside of that?
Well, I think the best thing that any of us can do, which I've just been talking about, is to pause. And it's like building a muscle, like going to the gym. It's not easy. It's actually one of the hardest things to do. And it really is. And I know as well because I'm great at it sometimes. And then it's like, no, I don't care now. And it's the voice in your head is telling you, who cares? Doesn't matter. The ego, yeah, they need to know. You should tell them. Pausing really is, if we could all learn to pause and not react, we would live in a completely different world, right? And just be with our feelings. So if you can just pause and in that moment go, this is great, right? This is a gift. Just pause and just be with it. And then, there's lots of other steps. Um, but then you can listen to the voice. What's the voice telling you? What's it telling you to do? It's telling you to do something reactive.
Yeah.
Just listen to the voice and go, okay, I hear you, right? I'm listening. But it's not me, right? It's a voice. It's not the truth. It's not real. It's an illusion, right? It's just this telling me thing. And you might feel some stuff, right? And then even just doing that is so powerful. And then you can like listen to the voice, you can and then you can ask, well, what would love do right now? Like what's a giving thing I could do right now, right? And it might be just simply like just don't say anything or talk to them later, or help the person, help the person or let the person cut you off in traffic, like give them. So come from a giving place, be giving, or what would love do right now? Is if you could just do that. If you have time later, maybe you have time in the moment, is to pause again, to sit quietly by yourself and see it as a movie and ask yourself, why is this in my movie? Why was this in my movie today? What was the message for me? What was the lesson for me? Why is my husband in my movie? He's so annoying. I can't stand that he does that thing. And and then ask yourself, well, why is he in my movie? And sit with it. And it might take you a while, but you start to get the message. Maybe it's like, oh yeah, my dad used to do that when I was little. Oh, I've got a pain. I've got an anger thing. Or I get jealous. I've got a jealousy issue. And be with that and be with the pain of it. A lot of us don't like to be with our pain. We want to rush over it. We want to look at our phone or, we can do it for a second. But to be with the pain. And interestingly, if you can be with your pain, like you can be with all your emotions and your pain, that's when joy starts coming in. You can actually start to feel joy a lot easier when everything is welcome in your house. You feel
Mhm.
joy, right? There's a quote I heard from someone, I can't remember how it goes exactly. That's why things like breath work, I think, are great too. I go to them, but I haven't studied it yet. Like really, people really being in their emotions and feeling it. And I help people do that. I do in sessions, we pause and we help them like just sit there and feel it. We don't have to be anywhere in hypnotherapy, get it all out, speak to the person in hypnotherapy, speak to that person that hurt you and like let all the emotions out. But yeah, getting the message because we can be our own, we have all the wisdom inside us. If we pause, we get the message. We know what it is. We know what. So I teach my clients lots of little processes they can do on their own. So if something's coming up, they can go and sit down and they can go through and ask these questions, and it's like a little mini therapy session for them. And they go, oh, right, yeah, this is what's going on. This is where I'm putting my power. I'm putting my power in this and not in actually what I would love. And but the easiest thing, and I always bring this back to everyone, is really just pause, don't react, and see it with certainty that even if it doesn't look good, right? It's good somehow. You might not know why it's good,
Mhm.
but you don't need to know how. And a lot of the time we get ourselves in stress because we want to know how, how does everything, how's the future going to be? How is this? We need to give up the need to know how and just say, this is what I would love. And I don't know how I'm going to get there, but that's what I love. And you just take the steps to get there
Yeah.
and magic happens, right? And so with the pausing, you don't need to know how it works, but just and or how or why it's good, but just go, okay, this is good. I don't know why, but this is good that this person cut me off in traffic or this terrible thing happened.
Hmm.
Even the worst things, even I don't want to think of any worse things right now, but even the worst things that can happen, it's all for us as well, so that we can grow in some way and expand and go through that pain.
Hmm.
It's all, we are the star of our own movie.
Yeah,
And
that's exactly
everyone,
right. Yeah.
I
it's
find
all us.
myself, I find myself walking around often when something happens in the daytime and going, and what the hell am I supposed to learn from that one? You know, sort of thing. And then concentrating on it afterwards. Okay, what do I come up with first right away with what happened just now? What am I getting from that? What do I need to learn from the future so that I don't repeat that? Especially if it was
Yeah,
something that really gave me a negative feeling, right? So what do I need to learn from that so I don't have to redo that? It's something I don't want to
yeah.
redo easily, right? Yeah,
And that's powerful, right? Because if you get the lesson, hopefully you don't have to repeat it. I mean, we don't want to keep
exactly.
going stuff, do we? And another really interesting thing to know, and I won't go so much into it because it's quite technical, but if people want to learn more about this, they can read a book by my mentor, Robert Fritz. Sorry. It's called The Path of Least Resistance. And he wrote another really great book called Creating. And if you guys are into therapy and healing, you'll really love this book because it really calls out a lot of stuff in the spiritual world and stuff, but it just brings it back to basics. Talks about affirmations in there and what you think you're focused on, you're not focused on. But we all talk about patterns, how we have a pattern and like I always do this and this thing always happens. And it's that oscillating structure again I told you about before. Um, and he's really amazing because in the 80s he figured out that we have patterns. He's a composer and he worked at the Boston, he studied at the Boston Observatory of Art. So he learned patterns in music and he makes films, but he also teaches this stuff as well. He's amazing. Um, but he discovered that in people's patterns, that these things always happen, that there's also a structure underneath that that's causing the pattern, right? So he's not so interested in people's patterns. I know a lot of people do patterning work and they want to figure out what their patterns are, but he figures out what the structure is underneath it because the underlying structure of anything determines its behavior. So if you have a rocking chair, that structure it oscillates, right? It just goes back and forward, whereas a car would be a resolving structure, it goes forward.
Right.
Um, and so we all have our own structure and it's no one's fault really. If I was in your structure, I would be exactly the same as you. And these structures are all created in the first 5 or 6 years of our life because we start coming to conclusions about things that happen and we come up with concepts about ourselves. And so the underlying structure, it's all our concepts that are causing us to take all the steps that we do to where we get to the thing that we want, and then it doesn't work out. And it's because we're trying to get away from what we don't want, and then thing doesn't work. But it's quite complicated to go right into it. It's like a car engine has all its bits, right? And that puts together the engine. And we're the same. We have all our concepts that put together our structure. And there's four main structures, I'll tell you quickly. There's an identity one. So I am this, or I'm not enough, or I'm nothing. There's a freedom and control structure so we all have one of four, right? Freedom and control structure, which is the one I shared before, where we try and control, but not in a way where we're mean or anything, but by even being helpful and nice, being a people pleaser. We're kind of manipulating, not manipulating really, but quite, we're controlling so that we can feel safe because we have a fear. It's actually a fear structure. We have a fear of conflict. We have a fear of not being safe, a fear of the world. So that's a freedom and control structure. Then there's a parental preoccupation structure where in our structure and our pattern, the things that we're always, going for is to kind of get that that acknowledgement from a parent, maybe they're deceased or you're never going to get it. And then there's a purpose and existence structure, which is there's a purpose to life, right? Why am I here? There must be a purpose to my life. I have to do this. And there really is no purpose to life. The purpose to your life is what you make it, what you would love, which is your purpose, right? What you want to do. But we think sometimes that this magical purpose is going to land on our lap, and where isn't we go searching for it? What is my purpose? So there's these people, or they think also that if they don't do something amazing, then there's no purpose to their life, right? And that they're so, but I can go more into that. Like I could go into that for ages, but it's like a big conversation to have. But they're the four main structures we have. I have the freedom and control one, right? So I'm the bit of the people pleaser, but I'm aware of it. So once you see your structure and you know it, you start to feel when you're going into it, and you go, yeah, this isn't what I want right now. This isn't what I really would love, right?
Yeah.
And you just naturally don't do the next thing. And you shift into then a resolving structure, a creative structure. And the thing is, what's really cool is when you're creating anything, your work, your podcast that you guys are creating, when you're creating, you're in a creative structure, you're not in the oscillating one.
Mm-hmm.
And creating is not about fixing or solving problems. It really is just bringing something into being that you would love to have in the world, whether it be relationships or travel, just because you'd love it, not because it's going to make you a better person, not because then everyone will love you, not because now you can, attach your identity to it. It's just you would love to do it. And you'll notice there'll be things in your life where you do have success, where you're doing that, right? You're just doing it because you want to do it, and it works out well.
Yes.
And other times where there is a bit of like, if you look back, maybe some unconscious, like wanting something, there's something that you sort of wanting or you're trying to get away from, and it doesn't always kind of work out, does it?
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense because when you were talking about that, because I'm pretty sure fear and control is mine also. Because that is, I like to be in control, but a lot of that is because I do have a lot of those fears that you were talking about, right? So yeah, being in control makes me not have conflict, makes me not have those things because it takes that part of it out of it, right? And so it's interesting that you said that and gives me something to think about, to do and work on, to know those different things. So I think, I think having a coach is a great thing because I think they can really start helping you break down some of these barriers and some of the things that you don't want to dig down deep enough to get into, because I do think you're right. When you start digging down into that, that's where the juicy stuff comes up, right? The gold, and creating just does put you in such a different, like I know when we're doing stuff with the podcast or we're doing stuff with talking about our business and things like that, I know for myself, like it's just a different,
You're going to another world.
I don't have that ego in there
Yeah,
telling
no.
me kinds of stuff. I don't have that, the itty shitty bitty club on your shoulder telling you negative things because you're just in this other zone.
Yeah, it's the creative orientation, right? You're in your, what we call your super conscious, and you're in what you would love. You're in your heart. This is what I would love. And when it's not about you, like you're doing this podcast, not because you want everyone to email you and go, wow, you're so amazing and love you, and they might do that, right?
Yeah.
But you're doing it because you love it. And that's it. You love it. You love connecting with people. You love meeting people. You love learning and sharing the wisdom with other people, and it's going well for you, right? It hasn't, crashed and burned. It's successful.
No, we don't want it to either.
Right, and you keep, and the thing is, if stuff comes up for you, or maybe something breaks or something happens, or you get some negative feedback, you don't make it about you right, and you just go, okay, well, that person's in their structure. This is what's going on. This is what's coming up for me, and what would I love? And you keep going, and you just go,
Yeah.
what's the next step I could take, right?
I think too, if you learn about yourself early enough in life too, how it enriches you later, like about 40 years ago now, go back that far. I'm still young. Anyway, about 40 years ago, I went into this course. It was called The Courage to Heal. And what it was identifying what your underlying stuff was that's holding you back in life today and or at the moment. And back then it was I was phasing out. If something bothered me or something upset me, the first thing I would do phase out. I would go somewhere else in my mind so I didn't have to deal with that issue. But I also realized that I wasn't dealing with any issue because I was so good at the phasing out stuff that I didn't have to look at what was in front of me. So I lived in this other place. But then after I realized and identified with myself, going, something
I don't know
happened.
what happened
So anyways,
there. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. What you were saying. You're saying you didn't have to deal with that.
yeah. So once I realized that's what I was doing, then I
Mm.
actually started connecting back in with the world. And and realizing, oh, you have to do this and you have to do this now, right? Where before I was just going through the motions. It was basically going
Yeah.
through the motions.
So you're becoming more conscious
So it
of what
became, yes.
you're more conscious, right? Of what's
And
going on for you and
exactly.
what you want. I mean, a lot of people, they might even think they're conscious, but they're not really, they're reacting. And reactions, there's 1,000 different ways we can react. Being nice to people, it can be a reaction, right?
Yep. Yep.
Just because you're being nice. That can be a reaction because it's coming from fear, because you don't want to deal with, what their emotions, because you don't think you're powerful or wherever it's coming from. And this is all the stuff that you discover from doing the work.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and letting people, like, if you really get, and like we know the color of our hair and our eyes, if you really know that you can't control anyone or anything, this is what I had to get. And when I was having my session with my mentor, I was like, well, yeah, but can I, maybe I can, it was still hard for me to kind of get that I can't control people. Not that I'm consciously trying to control people, but in a way that, I want to help them and stuff, that
Yeah.
helping my family like too much,
Yeah.
Whereas I sometimes I wanted to say no, but I don't. But I'm not even aware that I want to say no because I'm just reacting like, oh, I'm so used to, saying yes. So it's like I can't control anyone or anything. And also, people are powerful. Other people are powerful, right? People are free to be whatever they want to be, and they're free to be ourselves. They're free to be upset. And so, really, leading life from your heart and what you would love. And if you're always coming from a love and a giving place, um, that that is the best thing for the other person as well. They might get upset, right? So say you want to break up with someone, that can still be coming from a giving, loving place because you're being true to yourself, and that's going to help the other person. They
Yeah.
might be upset and angry at you, but they're powerful, they're powerful, and they can deal with it, and that's okay, But then, if you're in a reactive structure and you're in your staff and in the fear, you won't break up with them, you'll just stay with them, right? And be
Right.
miserable, just dysfunctional, and because you're scared of their reaction. So it really is living in our power more,
Yeah.
And here's a really powerful quote that a friend of mine that died many years ago said to me. He said, what is the most powerful resource in the world, Samala? And I said, whatever I thought. And he said, no, the most powerful resource in the world is attention, your attention. Because with your attention, you can create another world. With our attention, we can create other worlds. What you think, what you're focused on, you can create. And a lot of the time, what we're focused on, we don't know. And also, the world is trying to get our attention, the news, and they know it, right? They know that if we're completely doing our work, using our attention, our focus, and if we had full control over our attention and focus, that we would be creating a completely different world right now. So the aim of the game is to get our distraction.
Yeah.
That is what the world is trying to do. They're trying to get our attention any way they can. And right? I don't even have to explain to you how they're trying to do it. It's everywhere. The news,
Yeah.
this drama, that drama. It's all about getting our attention, the phones, so that we're not doing our work. We're
Right.
not cleansing ourselves. We're not looking after ourselves. We're just doing what they want, and you can get right. That's a whole other conversation. You can get right into the phone and advertising algorithms and the whole thing, right? They're doing whatever they can to get our attention, and it's not cool. So it's really about getting our attention back,
Yeah.
and creating another world, creating
Yeah.
a life that we all love. And if you're creating a life that you love, that benefits other people. And we're all doing that. And we're we're being challenged and we're feeling stuff, but then we pause, we don't react. We go, oh, this is, we're not spewing it out on someone else, and we're going, okay, this is what's coming up for me, and it's painful, I'm crying. But what would I love? And then you keep creating what you would love. I mean, we have an amazing world, don't we? You would change the world.
Oh,
Yes,
it
it
would
would.
shift the whole world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
Sorry, go ahead.
I know that course that I took sure changed my life too. It brought
Yeah,
me to the
great.
present, right? So, I mean, all those things are what you're doing is very important. I just got thinking about that as you're talking about what you do and how much it changes a person's life by someone else helping them to see what they can accomplish and what they should give up.
Yeah, for sure.
And
And we can create anything. We're really
yeah,
powerful. And it just takes the focus and even if we don't have the money to create the thing we want, or we don't know how, like that just seems impossible, you'd be amazed at when you hold the tension. If I like to think of like a rubber band, it's actually physics. If I drop that, that falls, right? That's gravity. But the same thing like that, if I pull this rubber band, it wants to go like that. It wants to resolve. So tension wants to resolve. So if we hold the tension, we will, we give up. We will get what we want. And to have tension, there's 2 points. You need to know your current reality. You need to know all your shit.
right.
Be friends with it and know what's going on. And that could be a daily thing, stuff coming up, right? But you also need to know what you love, what you would love, like what you would really love, and allow yourself to have that. Because a lot of the times when you ask someone what they would love, they tell you what they think they can have or what they should have. They don't really allow themselves to have what they would love. And children do. You ask a child what they would love, and they tell you, I want to go to the moon. They really let themselves
The white
have it.
dragon.
So it's really
Fire
letting
dragon,
yourself.
yeah.
And so if you know what you would love and you know what your current reality is, what's going on for you, you've got tension now. And that's when, if you think of the triangle, you start to pull it, wisdom starts coming out. You've got current reality, end result, what you'd love. And then wisdom starts coming out. Magic comes out. When things come to you, you go, I know how to do that. Or I'll create this, or I'll do that. Or ideas come, the best ideas come to people. And the most successful people in the world, they didn't go to university. They are creators. They're creative. They imagined it. Things came to them in their sleep or their dreams or in the shower, and they had these great ideas. And then they just ended up building these $1 million businesses from nothing. So nothing's impossible. And
Truth.
it's really taking the next step, and magic will happen. And sometimes shit will happen, and other things will happen, and stuff will come up. But when you hold that tension, you will. And when you know where you are, like when you know, okay, I'm just in my control thing now, or this is coming up, but this is what I'd love, and this, what's the next thing I got to do, right? You just take the next step. You can create anything, and I proved that to myself because I have created some scary things in the last 2 years, and it's been amazing. Now on to the next thing, and I'm freaking out again all over.
which is good, right? Because that's life. So if people want to find you to be coached by you or to follow you on social media, learn more about what you do, where can they do that?
So my website is Samala Austin. And it's also, it's the same website, but two names. Samala Austin, Austin, and also Byron Bay Hypnotherapy, which is where I live, my hometown when I'm not traveling. It's in Australia. So Byron Bay, how do I show it? It's Byronbay. It's a beautiful tourist town in Australia. So Byron Bay Hypnotherapy, you can find me there. So I'm a hypnotherapist on my website. I'm launching a new website soon, which will talk more about coaching. But obviously I do, rapid transformational hypnotherapy taught by Marissa Peer and David Snyder and Brian Weiss, and I do some past life stuff as well, and conversation hypnotherapy. So I do all that. And then some people, when they really want to keep going, they choose to come into the coaching or the mentoring.
Awesome. If you had a final thought for today to leave with all of our followers and us, what would it be?
A final thought to leave with all your followers. Well, I think it's what I said before, that your attention is the most powerful resource you have. And what are you focused on right now?
Wonderful.
Beautiful.
We love that. Yes. Well, we really appreciate you being on with us today. It's learned so much, and just, really just makes me want to get more creative and more ideas out there brewing and scratch down into the deep. So thank you so much for
Yes,
sharing all your
thank you.
wisdom with both of us and all of our followers.
Yes, thank you.
I'm really honored and grateful that you found me and chose me to have on your podcast. It's a real honor, and I often don't talk about the coaching stuff. I'm more always talking about hypnotherapy, so it's really nice to have a conversation about that because it's a big conversation to have. So it was really nice to kind of narrow it down as much as I could.
Good job.
Perfect. Yes, you did wonderful. So thank you for being on with us, and everybody else, we will see you on the next one.
You bet you will.
Thank